But everybody did not have a share, so they started making what they called nominal members. So these were people who were availing of services of cooperatives without voting rights. Now, here it becomes an issue of governance, that I put my money somewhere where I don't have even a voting right. So is my money safe? Am I going to get adequate services because I have no say there in the governance of that structure? As I mentioned, that right from the beginning, the cooperative movement was state-led. A state means bureaucracy, state also means politics. So both intervened. The bureaucracy went into cooperatives and the politicians went into cooperatives. If you look the way the cooperative sector developed, in fact, if you talk to any Congress leaders, they would say that this was a very deliberate effort to build leaders. If you start managing a small cooperative, tomorrow you will learn how to manage your state. Tomorrow, day after, you will learn how to manage your country. So we were building leadership by putting politicians there. This was the strategy. Okay, granted. But politics and bureaucracy, which was not tuned to financial discipline, definitely spoiled the cooperative structure. Now, sometime about 4 years, 5 years back, the government of India thought that some of the cooperatives are doing well, some are doing very badly. What do we do? And they set up a task force under the chairmanship of Professor Vaidyanathan, which looked into whether this cooperative sector should be revitalized or should be allowed to die. If their cooperatives fail, let them fail. If they succeed, let them succeed. They must respond to the market. And the only argument which saved the day for the cooperatives, I would say, was that here is a structure with 100,000 outlets. If it is allowed to die, it will be well nigh impossible to create another structure with this much outreach. Number two, although agricultural credit in India over the past 4 or 5 years has almost doubled or tripled every year, because under the pressure of the Government of India program of doubling agricultural credit, all commercial banks, RRBs, cooperatives, everybody started lending more and more to agriculture. But if you look at the per loan amount, then one starts seeing that although commercial banks do provide almost 70% of this agriculture credit, the per account credit given by them is close to 70,000, 80,000. The per account credit given by RRBs is about 26,000 to 30,000. The per account credit given by cooperatives is close to 15,000. Now, in a country where 60 to 70% farmers in almost any state are small and marginal farmers, who is taking this small loan of 15,000, 20,000, not the large farmer? He is already with the State Bank of India or ICICI or somewhere. The middle farmers are perhaps with RRBs. What about those who have less than 2 acres, 3 acres, 4 acres? Where do they go? Perhaps it is these people who are, there was no absolute data, but this was all analysis that led to this kind of thinking that perhaps the commercial banks are trying to marginalize the marginal farmer, because ultimately the bottom line is important for everybody. So what happens to this large 70% clientele of the farming community, which is small and marginal farmers? Perhaps for their sake, let us give it one last try and try to see whether the cooperatives can be revitalized. Now, we worked out, I was associated luckily with this task force right from day one, we worked out that the accumulated losses that this system had was in the range of about 10,000 crores. So this will have to be provided by the government. And the government said, well, this money can be provided as one-time measure. We can write off your loan, write off your losses, and say from tomorrow, start standing on your own feet. But the task force also recommended that this state and political intrusion which has come in during the last 50 years as a deliberate policy measure needs to be reversed. And therefore, significant amendments to the Cooperative Societies Act must first take place before any money goes to them. Now, this was an attempt to free the cooperatives from the bureaucratic and political intervention. The scheme was offered to all the states on a voluntary basis. The states had a choice to either accept the scheme or not to accept the scheme. I am happy to inform that 25 states accepted to participate in the program. 14 states have already amended their Cooperative Societies Act, thereby giving them complete autonomy in all administrative and financial matters. Today, a primary cooperative can directly deal with, as the amended act says, and the MOU that was signed by the states and the Government of India and NABARD says, that any primary cooperative can have business with any financial institution regulated by the RBI. So very theoretically, a primary society can approach NABARD or SIDBI or Axis Bank. I want to deal directly with you. I will deposit my money with you. I will borrow from you. On terms and conditions that is mutually convenient to them, because there is no state policy intervening now. Substantive opening. There are other issues on reforms which I would like to mention. Should I mention that right now? Or?
Yes, quickly if you can give
one or two things, for example. Since cooperatives have to now stand on their own feet, they have to be run like business entities. So cooperatives as business entities. That means they must be run professionally. It is here that the 400 cooperative banks which I mentioned, the central cooperative banks and the state cooperative banks, RBI now has mandated professionals to be appointed as CEOs. So fit and proper criteria has been prescribed for appointment of CEOs of these organizations. They must have certain minimum educational qualification which RBI has prescribed, and must have certain minimum banking experience at middle or senior management level. So maybe perhaps a DGM of a commercial bank can become managing director of a cooperative bank, and this has already started. They have also said that since the board of directors of cooperatives are elected, it may so happen that they may not be professionals, they may all be farmers. So Reserve Bank has again mandated that a minimum of 3 directors on the board of any cooperative bank must be professionals. They must be professionals in banking, in law, in accounting, in agriculture, the areas in which the cooperative bank is supposed to deal with. They have prescribed educational qualifications, experience for them. And if such members do not get elected, the board will be mandated to co-opt such people and give them voting rights so that they have a say in the board. I think this is for the beginning.